What if the fish you've trusted for decades to protect your heart and mind were actually quietly piling stress on your brain, joints, and nerves? I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me. In my practice, I've watched energetic, capable adults over 60 lose their spark, then get it back, simply by changing the fish on their plates. Some species carry heavy metals and industrial residues that latch onto tissues and don't let go. Others are so clean and nutrient-dense they act like tune-ups for your cells. Today, I'll show you 4 fish to minimize or avoid, and 4 to make regular friends with, plus how to swap smartly without feeling deprived. By the end, you'll know which choices calm inflammation, support memory, and keep your energy steady. And there's one underdog fish most people walk right past in the store that can sharpen recall in ways that surprise even me. Ready to see how just one tweak to your dinner rotation can change your week? Let's start where so many grocery carts land. The budget-friendly white fillet that seems harmless, tilapia. Many tilapia on the market are farm-raised in crowded systems where the fish are kept healthy with interventions you'd never guess from the label. That environment can shift their fat profile in a direction most older bodies don't appreciate. Instead of the cool, calming omega-3s your joints and blood vessels love, farmed tilapia often carry much more omega-6. Your body needs both, but the ratio matters. When omega-6 consistently outweighs omega-3, tiny fires of inflammation can smolder in cartilage, artery linings, even your gut. I've met countless folks like Harold, who ate tilapia 3 nights a week because it was cheap and light, then wondered why their knees felt creaky and their blood pressure got jumpy. When we trade that routine for wild white fish like cod or haddock and add a true omega-3 source, those embers settle. The trick is not no fish, it's picking the right fish. Now let's talk about a name that sounds heart-smart but hides a problem for older brains: king mackerel. Not all mackerel are created equal. Small varieties like Atlantic or Pacific chub mackerel are generally low in contaminants and high in omega-3s. Great. King mackerel, though, is a large predator that sits high on the food chain and tends to accumulate mercury. Mercury binds tightly to muscle proteins and, once ingested, can cross into the brain. In older adults, where detox systems aren't as efficient as they once were, that exposure may add up, showing up as shaky hands, foggier focus, or tingling. I met Marlene, a retired teacher who loved thick mackerel steaks on the grill. Over time, she noticed she couldn't recall numbers as easily, and her fingertips buzzed. Her labs showed elevated mercury. We swapped her king mackerel for sardines and small mackerel, and over months her clarity and steadiness improved. If you enjoy mackerel, simply choose the smaller species and skip anything labeled king. That one word makes all the difference. The next one pains me to say because salmon has an incredible reputation. But again, details matter. Wild salmon lives in cold, clean waters, eats its natural diet, and naturally concentrates valuable omega-3s. Farmed salmon, depending on where and how it's raised, can be a very different animal. Dense pens, processed feeds, and color additives can alter the fat balance and, in some regions, lead to higher levels of contaminants, like certain industrial residues. Those compounds don't belong in a body that's already working to manage blood pressure, blood sugar, or a sensitive liver. I remember Dennis, who proudly ate salmon 4 nights a week because he'd been told it was doctor-approved. He bought whatever was on sale, not realizing it was farmed. He felt off: metallic taste, stubborn rashes, rising pressure. We shifted him to wild Alaskan salmon once or twice weekly, or quality canned wild options, and his skin and numbers settled. If salmon is your favorite, you don't have to give it up. Just look for wild, especially from Alaska, and enjoy it in sensible portions. And then there's the one I ask my over 60 community to take off the menu entirely: swordfish. It's meaty, impressive, and often sold as a special treat. The problem? Swordfish are apex predators with long lifespans. They bioaccumulate mercury to levels that routinely trip advisory thresholds. Cooking won't fix mercury. It's bound within the flesh. For someone with a slower clearance rate, perfectly normal with age, a single large swordfish steak can push exposure above what's considered safe for a week or more. I'll never forget Arthur, a retired pilot who grilled swordfish twice a week. He ended up with irregular heart rhythms and surprisingly high mercury in his system. We swapped his swordfish for small oily fish, and his rhythm stabilized. If you love a thick, satisfying fish steak, try wild salmon, wild trout, or even a firm piece of halibut now and then. With swordfish, the best choice is simply to opt out. So, which fish actually give you the benefits you were promised? Let's start small, really small. Anchovies often hide on the bottom shelf or as a pizza topping, but these little fish are absolute gems for older brains and bones. Because they feed low on the food chain and live fast, they stay clean, very low in mercury and other heavy metals. They're rich in DHA, the omega-3 that becomes part of your brain cell membranes, helping those cells communicate smoothly. That can translate into clearer recall and steadier moods over time. And because you can eat them whole, soft bones and all, you naturally get calcium and phosphorus in a balance your skeleton loves. Grace, a librarian who couldn't tolerate calcium pills, blended a few anchovy fillets into marinara each week and spread some on whole grain toast with lemon. Her bone density stabilized, and she felt steadier on her feet. If the flavor feels bold, soak them briefly in olive oil with a squeeze of lemon. Suddenly they're savory and gentle, not fishy. If anchovies are the quiet brain builders, sardines are the all-around guardians. These little swimmers bring a trifecta that's hard to beat for those over 60. Omega-3s for calming inflammation, vitamin D and calcium for bone strength, and coenzyme Q10, which helps your heart cells make energy. By our 70s, natural CoQ10 levels can dip significantly. Support from food matters, and sardines deliver. Victor, a retired carpenter, had battled high triglycerides and low good HDL for years. He disliked new medications after muscle aches with a previous statin. We added sardines 3 times a week, simple tins in olive oil with crackers and tomato. 6 months later, his triglycerides dropped, HDL nudged up, and his late-day energy returned. If you're choosing canned sardines, look for water or olive oil, not soybean oil. Toss them over leafy greens with lemon and capers, mash into a spread, or warm gently with garlic and tomatoes for a speedy dinner. They're humble, yes, but profoundly helpful. Next up is a fish that flies under the radar despite tasting wonderful and being kind to older joints: wild trout. Think of wild trout as salmon's quieter cousin: clean waters, natural diet, and a beautiful balance of omega-3s, especially EPA, which tamps down those micro-inflammations in cartilage and blood vessels. Many of my patients describe mornings where the first steps feel stiff. Often, it's not just age, it's low-grade inflammation. Regularly eating trout can make getting out of bed feel easier. There's another bonus: vitamin B12. After 60, we commonly absorb less B12 from food, leading to numbness, tingling, or fatigue that's easy to blame on birthdays. One serving of wild trout typically covers your entire day's B12, and then some. Helena, a retired nurse with tingling feet and afternoon slumps, added trout twice a week, simply baked with dill, lemon, and a pat of olive oil. Within months, she felt brighter and steadier and got back to gardening. Choose wild when possible, and cook it gently to preserve those delicate oils. Finally, the star many of you already love: make it the right kind. Wild salmon is the heavyweight champion for older hearts and brains. Those rich, deep-colored fillets get their hue from natural pigments in krill and algae, and they carry plentiful omega-3s your cells can use right away. If you're looking for a simple, reliable habit to support memory and mood, 2 servings per week of wild Alaskan salmon is a strong move for most older adults. People often tell me they feel mentally smoother, On weeks they eat it. And if fresh wild salmon is expensive where you live, canned wild salmon is a fantastic alternative. Budget-friendly and still nutrient-dense, often including soft bones that add calcium. Eleanor, a pianist with wrist pain and brain fog, began eating wild salmon 3 times a week during a busy concert season, baked, grilled, or mixed into salmon cakes. She described it as flipping a clarity switch. The takeaway: wild beats farmed, gentle cooking beats frying, and consistency beats perfection. Let's pull these threads together into something you can use right away. If you've been leaning heavily on farmed tilapia or salmon because they're easy and affordable, you don't have to overhaul everything. Swap tilapia for wild cod, pollock, or haddock on weeknights. You'll get that same light, flaky texture without the bloated omega-6 balance. Trade farmed salmon for wild Alaskan sockeye or coho once or twice weekly, or stock your pantry with canned wild salmon for quick meals. Replace king mackerel with small, oily fish like sardines, anchovies, or Atlantic mackerel. And retire swordfish from the rotation. Plan your week like this: 2 days wild salmon or trout, 1 to 3 days sardines or anchovies in simple meals, and 1 to 2 days of wild white fish. If you have a medical reason to limit fish or are on specific medications, check with your clinician. Your plan can be customized. Most people feel the difference in a matter of weeks. Steadier energy, less joint grumbling, clearer thinking. While we fine-tune your menu, let me give you a few kitchen strategies that protect nutrients and keep meals joyful. Omega-3s are delicate. They hate high, prolonged heat. So bake, broil briefly, or grill over medium heat rather than deep frying. A simple method: place your fish on parchment, add lemon slices, herbs, a drizzle of olive oil, and bake until just opaque. For tins, sardines, or anchovies, don't cook them hard. Warm gently with garlic, tomatoes, and capers for 5 minutes and toss with whole grain pasta or spoon over greens. If strong flavors put you off, let acidity be your friend. Lemon juice, vinegar, or a quick tomato sauce mellows fishiness while brightening the dish. And always rotate species. Even low-mercury fish are best enjoyed as part of a varied menu. Think of your fish choices like a colorful garden, different nutrients on different days. If this is helpful, take a moment to subscribe to Senior Vitality Pro and tell me your age or where you're watching from in the comments. I do read them, and your notes help me shape future topics to fit your life. Everything from simple brain-boosting breakfasts to joint-friendly strength routines you can do in a living room chair. I also want to address a common worry. What if I've already eaten the wrong fish for years? First, breathe. Your body is astonishingly resilient. When you remove ongoing sources of stress, like high mercury or high residue fish, and bring in nourishing options, tissues begin to repair, inflammation cools, and clarity returns. I've watched it again and again. If you're concerned about mercury, ask your clinician about a blood test, especially if you've eaten large predator fish often. In the meantime, emphasize the clean 4: anchovies, sardines, wild trout, wild salmon. Add antioxidant-rich foods, berries, leafy greens, colorful vegetables to support your natural detox pathways. Hydrate well. If you can walk, walk. Movement helps your lymph and circulation do their jobs. This isn't about perfection. It's about making this week better than last week, and next month better than this one. For my caregivers and adult children watching, here's how to help without battles at the dinner table. Don't lecture or scare. Offer easy, tasty swaps. Keep a shelf of canned wild salmon and sardines. Whip up salmon salads with Greek yogurt and dill, or sardine toast with lemon and pepper. Make fish nights predictable, say Tuesdays and Fridays, so planning is simple. If the person you love has a strong attachment to a risky fish, offer a feel-alike, wild salmon steaks in place of swordfish, Atlantic mackerel fillets instead of king mackerel, and celebrate small wins. The goal is steady improvement, not a perfect report card. I've seen families transform grocery habits with one shared recipe that everyone actually wants to eat. Keep it joyful. Food is connection, and the right fish can help you protect many more evenings around the table together. Now, a quick tour of smart shopping. Labels matter. For salmon, look for wild Alaskan or name species like sockeye, coho, or chinook. If it says Atlantic salmon, it's almost always farmed. For trout, wild-caught or steelhead trout can be solid. When in doubt, ask where it's from. For mackerel, look specifically for Atlantic mackerel or Pacific chub mackerel and avoid anything labeled king. Sardines and anchovies are usually canned. Choose those packed in water or olive oil. Skip soybean or vegetable oil versions, which skew your omega balance. If fresh fish is pricey in your area, frozen wild fish can be an excellent value. Flash frozen at sea often means fresher than the fresh fillet that traveled for days. And if bones or skin make you squeamish, remember, those parts are where calcium and some antioxidants live. You can mash them into spreads or choose boneless options and get your calcium elsewhere. Let's talk sidekicks, because what surrounds your fish can amplify or mute the benefits. Pair omega-3 rich fish with fiber and polyphenols. That means big leafy salads, roasted Brussels sprouts, sautéed greens, or a colorful medley of peppers and onions. Add a whole grain, quinoa, farro, barley, for steady energy. Use extra virgin olive oil for its heart-friendly phenols. Fresh herbs matter. Dill, parsley, basil, and cilantro bring flavor and antioxidants without salt. A squeeze of lemon not only brightens taste, it can help offset fishy aromas for sensitive noses. If you're watching sodium, rinse canned fish briefly and season with citrus, garlic, and spice blends. For those who struggle chewing, try salmon cakes baked in the oven or sardines folded into a soft egg scramble. Your goal is simple. Build meals that feel good to eat and feel even better after you've eaten them. There's a myth I want to retire, that taking a fish oil capsule replaces eating fish. Supplements can be useful when advised by your clinician, especially if you don't eat fish at all. But fish is more than oil. It's protein for muscle maintenance, B vitamins for nerves and energy, trace minerals like selenium and iodine, and in some species, vitamin D and calcium. When you eat the whole food, those nutrients arrive together the way your body expects, often improving absorption and tolerability. Many of my patients who experience burps or indigestion from capsules do beautifully with food-based omega-3s. If you do choose a supplement, select a reputable brand tested for contaminants and talk to your healthcare provider if you take blood thinners or have clotting concerns. But if you can chew, chew. Real meals are where we build real resilience. What about cost? You do not need a boutique seafood budget to do this well. Anchovies and sardines are among the most affordable proteins per serving in the store. Canned wild salmon stretches into multiple meals, salads, patties, fish cakes with oats or quinoa. Frozen wild pollock or cod is often budget-friendly and cooks in minutes. Trout, depending on your region, can be reasonable compared to fresh wild salmon. Build a simple weekly template based on sales and pantry staples. Example, Monday, canned sardines on toast with a big salad. Wednesday, baked wild cod with lemon and broccoli. Friday, wild salmon burgers from canned salmon with slaw. Sunday, wild trout with roasted vegetables. Rotate herbs and citrus to keep it fresh. The best plan is the one you can afford and enjoy repeatedly. Consistency compounds. If you're managing conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or early cognitive changes, these choices can dovetail beautifully with your care plan. Omega-3 rich fish tends to support triglyceride control, calm vascular inflammation, and keep you satisfied, which makes it easier to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster that steals energy. For joints, the same anti-inflammatory effect often shows up as easier stairs and less morning stiffness. For brain health, DHA is part of the structure of your neurons. Giving your brain what it's made of is a sensible strategy. None of this replaces medical care, but it certainly gives your medications and therapies a friend to work with. I've watched patients feel like their whole life got a slight upgrade simply by making these swaps and walking most days of the week. Let me leave you with a simple framework you can screenshot in your mind. 4 to avoid or minimize, especially for adults over 60. Swordfish, king mackerel, farmed salmon from unknown sources, and farmed tilapia from intensive operations. 4 to choose often: anchovies, sardines, wild trout, wild salmon. Plan for 2 omega-3 rich days early in the week when your willpower is highest. Keep tins in your pantry so a power outage or a busy day doesn't knock you off track. Honor your preferences. If anchovies aren't your thing, lean into sardines. If wild salmon is pricey, use canned. And always listen to your body. If a fish makes you feel bloated or off, step back and try another. Your body will tell you what supports it when you pay attention. I'll close with a story I hear in different forms every month. Someone decides at 68 or 74 that they're too old to change. Then a daughter drops off a bag of canned wild salmon and sardines. A grandson shows them how to make crispy salmon cakes in the oven. 2 weeks later, they're sleeping better. A month later, the afternoon slump isn't so brutal. 3 months later, their walk is longer, their mood lighter, and their doctor raises an eyebrow at improved labs. Not every story is dramatic, but the direction is the same. Food nudges your future. The right fish can nudge it in a steadier, clearer, kinder direction. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you noticed certain fish leave you feeling foggy, stiff, or unusually tired the next day? Or the opposite, meals that help you think and move more easily? Drop your age or your location in the comments and tell me what you've noticed. Your patterns help me tailor the next round of practical, doable tips so we can keep building strength, clarity, and independence together.